All right. So Sam, should I go ahead and introduce Mitzi for us?
Yeah, if you're ready to do that, Domenica, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So welcome back as everybody's coming in from lunch. Thank you guys again for joining us for the West Virginia Creative Arts and Business Summit. I'm really happy to have you guys here. I know we've gotten a lot of good information and tips and experiences shared in the first couple of sessions we had this morning. And I am really honored to present Mitzi Sinnott, who is going to be doing our next workshop here today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to her and let you guys enjoy her talk on having a creative life.
Hey, everybody, had to get my cough drop out of my mouth. Good afternoon. So yeah, how exciting this is. And I want to say what a privilege it is to be part of this and spend this time with you in this hour. And I thank you. I also want to thank Tamarack Arts, Renee Margozzi, Domenica for asking me to be part of this premier event. So thank you, you all. And I honestly want to thank Zoom. Yep. Why? Because, you know, I'm having more and more, as we all are, but I never dreamed that I would be able to perform and do more work around the world and still have my feet right here on the ground, on the land of my ancestors. You know, my maternal great-grandmother is Shawnee, and my paternal great-grandfather is Cherokee. And so some of you may know that here in Huntington and the Ohio River Valley, that we are on the lands of the Cherokee and the Shawnee. And recognizing that the lands have longer history and reaching far beyond colonization and the establishment of the European colonies, as well as its significance to the Cherokee and the Shawnee people, whose practices are tied to the spirituality and the land. So I want to acknowledge the land that we are here on. Amen. So I'm curious, does anybody here and in the chat, because I would like us to use the chat while we're together in this hour, does anybody here, if you know, are you on any other indigenous land besides those nations that I have just mentioned? If you know, please put it in the chat. Yeah, just go ahead and type and shout out, recognize to those other indigenous groups. I'm not seeing anybody type yet. We might have a delay. Seneca. All right. Lindsay said she's on Seneca land. Yeah. Yeah, we might have a delay. Okay. Anybody else? But keep sharing as we go in the chat. I appreciate that. So thank you. Jacob said he's in Huntington. Osage, yes. Omaha, Delaware. Emily, thank you. Yeah. Shawnee here in the New River Gorge too. Woo, woo. All right. So y'all, who is Carmen Mitzi Sinnott? And what is it about me that would give voice to the entire experience of being an artist, and better yet, an Appalachian artist? I know since I've been home almost near 9 or so years, after being in New York City and Los Angeles for 20 years and LA, people have come up to me and now that I'm home, and they're like, now, how are you from here? You're from Huntington, you know, or when I was away, people were like, there's no way that you're Appalachian. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's Appalachian, but I am. Well, you certainly don't fit in with what I imagined. So that's kind of a trip, to be unrecognizable in your home and then away from home. But that's actually a piece of this thing, growing into your fullness and your full capacity in your artistry and your creative life, shaping and shifting and trusting and braving so much that sometimes you seem different, right? So this hour, you got to know, I'm not here professing to have all the answers to the existential questions of what it means to be a creative human. But what I do hope is to bring raw honesty to this hour, to this day, and share about some of my newfound efforts in bringing more thoroughness to my work, to my relationships, and all kinds of things. And it's here where I'm finding more wholeness, more peace, inner peace with myself and being an artist. And it feels something like sustainability. You know, as I've been working with Artists Thrive on their advisory board for the last few years, this year in particular, they keep talking a bit about sustainability and the Artists Thrive, you know, rubric. And I'm like, I have a degree in environmental science. I know what that means when we talk about sustainability and resources, but what does that mean for us? What does that mean for you as an artist? Sustainability, you know, because I see that loop, that infinity loop. This is kind of what I've been looking at, is that it looks like an ebb and flow, a rise and a fall. And that's sort of where I'm getting in these last few days. In fact, we've been through some radically changing times in the last 2 years. And for me, that ebb and flow, I wake up every day and I'm like, woo, or every minute, like, what's the next minute gonna bring? And am I gonna be present and okay with myself in however I respond, consciously, respectfully? So I can be on it some of the time. You know, that's another thing about when you think about sustainability and that flow. Is it really possible for you to have output creativity all the time? Like, I know that sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off, sometimes I'm stuck, sometimes I'm frustrated, sometimes I don't even believe I can do it. Sometimes I ask myself, what is this all for? But then I find another day and another time and I get back in it. I'm happy and exhausted. When can I be chill with myself? When I'm teaching dance. I'm here at my mom's dance studio right now. And so those are some of the times in between where I know no matter what's going on and I step into the space of the room, that I can be completely present and okay. So wrestling with the ebb and flow of being an artist kind of feels like you're surfing, you know? And that to me seems like the artist's journey. Like the surfer goes out to catch the wave. And there's times when they're sitting there talking to people out on the board and waiting for this. And they build up the momentum, finally seeking it and take the ride and they flow and then they rest. So for us as the artist, that seems like the divine task, the divine struggle, maybe. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about this throughout this time. But I would like to take a minute right now, y'all. If you have that piece of paper and pen, if anybody had, did everybody get a piece of paper and pen? Did they get that note? Or do you have something there to write with? Yeah. So I'm going to ask if you could, do you mind right now, to honor my request, to take a few minutes right now. I want to check in and see about you before I talk about me. What about you? Can you take a few minutes to answer the question, what's true for you right now? Put that in the chat. And just, I got my timer up. And I would like you to take that time I'm putting in the chat too. Everyone, what's true for you right now? As an artist, as a human being, what can you say in this very moment? Where are you? What's true for you right now? Setting the timer, 3 minutes. As I was talking about the ebb and flow, where are you in the ebb and flow? Where are you in that sustainability space? Yeah, and using the chat too, yes. And if you want to you know, writing or in symbols, you may use use words, whatever you feel comfortable with for yourself. Where are you in this moment, what's true for you right now. I'm seeing some things in the chat, and it's pretty amazing to also see the levels and the different stops on the journey. Frustrated, time and space needed to get out of a temporary mess to find a better space, spread too thin, inspiration, creativity, and peace, someone says. A waxing moon, about amount of projects, waning moon, amount of energy. I'm in a transitional phase where I'm trying to prioritize myself and creativity as well as working to get on my feet. Time is slipping away too fast. Yes, overwhelmed, stressed out, lots of creative ideas in my head, but too little time to manifest. Excited, just built my studio and ready to roll. Needing to find a creative space. Feeling frustrated. Yes. Anybody else? Yeah. So it's I'm almost at 3 minutes here. Is there anybody who would like to share out, besides to speak out about where you are right now? Somebody would love to share out and speak out about that. Where are you right now? What's true for you right now in your practice, in your life, in your work as an artist? Anybody? Yeah, going once, going twice. Trying to find balance between making honest work and not giving too much of myself away. Everything everybody is saying is a little bit of what I've been feeling in the last 2 weeks. So much to the last minute, for sure. So thank you everybody for sharing that. And I encourage you to keep paper out as I continue leading us on this throughout this hour, because there may be some questions that arise for you that you may want to revisit later. So for me, getting started as an artist wasn't like very clear, even though when I show you this, you're going to be like, huh? So I'm the daughter of 2 established Appalachian performing artists. My mother is a dancer and a dance studio owner in Ironton, Ohio. My father, a soul singer from Huntington, West Virginia, who was part of the very famed group called the Explosive Dynamics. And I want to share a screen with you now. I'll push play here. So that's my family. And, you know, my mom and dad, my dad being the one right here in the middle, singing and here, they both at a very early age of 17 started making money and have always supported themselves. That's been their sole job, is being an artist and a creative. Now, did I think anything about them being artists? Why my parents chose to do this? No. Did they require me to be a performing artist? Absolutely not. I actually had to spend long days and nights in the studio with my mom, and I hated it, totally hated it. And half the time it was annoying to me, but then the other half, I realized that I had a whole dance family that are still part of my family today. You know, and then I can't even tell you literally because it was too little what the journey was like when these 2 characters decided to hook up with me as a baby and travel across country to go to Hawaii, driving a car so that my dad could establish the Explosive Dynamics in Honolulu as part of Don Ho's nightclub, their house band in Honolulu. And that's the whole story I hope to finally tell someday in a feature film, but for now, as a kid, I didn't think a thing about them and the legacy that they had actually passed off to me. My mom, she was just fierce with me. What she did say, she said, if you're going to step on this road and you're going to be an artist and you're going to be a dancer, then you have to commit. You can't do this flip floppy thing that you've been doing. You've got to decide. And if you do it, that's it. And I was like, okay. But I remember finally deciding that I wanted to dance with her and walking into the studio that day. And that's what she said to me. So my first thing was I had to learn the craft and I had to master it. And for my mom, that meant that she was going to not only teach me what she could, but she would take me from Columbus, Ohio, to Dayton, to Cincinnati, to all the places, to Charleston, any place where there were people teaching, that I would master my skills. Can I master my skills? Do I have the skills to be a performing artist? And one of the first places that I actually got to test and see, let's see, tab. First job that I actually got to test and see, did I have the skills, was at Kings Island. I don't know if anybody remembers that indoor theater that Kings Island used to have. So I auditioned about 2 or 3 years in a row and finally got my first gig there at Kings Island. And my dance partner there right here is actually Andy Blankenbuehler. He is the choreographer for Hamilton. He did In the Heights. He's there as well. And then one of my other dance partners over here, Reggie Lee, who is on NCIS New Orleans and all these other things, those guys were there with me at that time. So you might be wondering, wow, what happened to Mitzi? I also ask those questions sometimes too. But no, I moved to New York City after this. And I went to train at Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater and attended the Fashion Institute of Technology. My mom said that I couldn't just move to New York. I needed to be connected to a community where I would find support, not just taking the passion and running off. She wanted to go and never got the chance. And so I attended the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. But very soon I realized, y'all, that I wanted to dance in music videos. And so I was off to Los Angeles. But within about 6 months, I ripped my Achilles tendon. And that level of dance within my life was gone, actually, for the rest of my time. So I moved back to Columbus, Ohio, to pursue a degree to let my body heal. And I have a degree in environmental science, but the whole time I was there in Columbus, I had this, that question, that urge coming up, are you still an artist? And I finally answered with yes. So I moved back to New York City and I went by myself this time. It wasn't very clear. And I started teaching because that was the only place that I could find work, because I wasn't nabbing any auditions. I wasn't even sure where the agents were. And I started working as a teaching artist at El Puente Academy for Peace and Justice. And so from there, if you can see here, the man on the bottom, Francis Gardner Acosta, Francis is up at the top. Luis at the bottom is one of the young lords, which were pretty much the parallel group to the Black Panthers. So teaching was the place where I began to find connection and community as an artist. And then from there went to School of the Future. But it was interesting, y'all, by the time I got to New York on a second time around this time, still having the passion to be an artist, but my skill sets, getting to a place where I was beginning to feel very stuck, although I was in community working, but I was struggling, trying to get auditions, trying to get other work, because originally I had moved there to become an artist. But all of a sudden I looked around and my life wasn't what I intended for it. I had moved to New York City originally to become a professional dancer, but I ripped my Achilles tendon. And then I found myself, y'all, and as life is, I was in a relationship with a brilliant photographer, an artist, but he was crazy and he treated me terribly. I mean, not physically, but he played mind games with me. And I was working part-time in each of these schools, not doing anything where I was performing. How could I call myself an authentic leader or a teacher? My confidence was dropping daily and my clarity about my future was dropping. And I was feeling very stuck. And even though at the school, it just wasn't what I planned. So I knew that I needed some help. And I knew, let me see, I'm going to share the screen with. I sought out to see a counselor, y'all. And within the very same months, the Twin Towers, this is around 2001, the 2 airplanes crashed into the Twin Towers. And the rest you know a little bit about. President George Bush and the Congress deliberating on declaring war in Iraq. There were articles written everywhere about the comparison of invading Iraq to Vietnam, and so many people speaking out about it, and then people telling those of us who were speaking out against it that we shouldn't compare them, as if our feelings were irrelevant and that they were invalid. And so news writers everywhere, saying that we shouldn't be doing this. And it was if we are not allowed to hold our feelings about the devastation that the Vietnam War had on soldiers and their families. So I remember being back in my counselor's office, y'all, trying to make sense of things in my life, artists feeling stuck, no money, in community, but not feeling actualized, helping everybody else become who they're meant to be. Because when I left the Ohio River Valley, I was supposed to be that person on stage in Broadway, but I wasn't making it. Potential high, but hit a brick wall. And I remember my counselor that day, him asking me, he said to me, "What about your father, your dad?" And I said, "Wait a minute, my dad, it's my father." But yeah, he wasn't around. He went to Vietnam and he eventually became schizophrenic. His mother signed him out of the VA mental hospital in 1978 because she wanted him out of the horrific conditions, but had no idea how to deal with him. So she bought him a one-way ticket to Hawaii, back to Hawaii. No one's seen him in over 26 years. He's somewhere in Hawaii, and it's just been me and my mom. She held it down. So don't ask me about my dad, all right? But I knew that he was right. He did ask me more about my dad because that's his job. And I said to him, "Wait a minute. You're saying, let me get this straight. You're saying that me having a dad who was non-responsive set me up now for being in this relationship with a kooky man who now plays mind games with me, and I'm struggling to get away with him, and that I can't reach the goals that I want to reach, and that it's affecting my confidence?" I knew that he was right, and I knew that I had to look back, and I knew that I had to look here. Oop.
Mitzi, come here. Mommy wants to show you something. Yeah, it's a big red book. Let's open it. Careful. Pictures. That's Daddy. He loves you very much.
But I mean, can you get parts and things for $75? It's just odd.
My mom, she made this photo album of my dad when I was a little girl.
For the first time.
And it's got these pictures of him before, during, and after the Vietnam War. Now, they're mainly photos that my dad sent back from his time spent in Vietnam. And when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I just remember looking at them and looking at them, staring at them, wondering, what does your voice sound like? I'm Lorenzo, I'm your daddy. I'm Lorenzo, I'm your daddy. I'm Lorenzo, I'm your daddy. I bet you walk like this. You look nice. Do you miss us? Who are all these men? It's hot as hell up in here. Cecil, what are you doing over there, man? Damn. I need a smoke. You got some squares? Good. Give me 5 because you owe me 3. Can't wait to get out of here. Nah, man, I'm not gonna be quiet. I want out of this damn jungle. When I get home, I'm gonna eat me one of my mama's Sunday hams. Yeah, I'm gonna eat some ham, some greens, some of my woman Lucille's homemade rolls. Nice and hot and buttery. I can feel that in my mouth right now. You shut the hell up talking about Lucille. Boy, you better stop dreaming. Your black ass just got here. Now you gotta make it through 5 more months. Crying for your mama ain't gonna get you no Medal of Honor. Please, man. Ain't nobody trying to give no Negroes no Medal of Honor. This is a white man's game. Since we sitting here, let me take a minute to explain the objective of the game to you, see? It's all about profit and conquering for power. Question. How many of y'all really believe going out here every day, killing the Viet Cong is advancing democracy in the world? Okay, you believe that, then you a damn fool, man. Only the white boys over here are looking forward to the kill. Hell, every day I go out there, man, I'm trying to avoid them son of a bitches. Ain't no search or destroy. I'm trying to search and avoid so my Negro ass can stay alive. Please, man, don't nobody care about us and the stuff we gotta go through. In our own damn country that our ancestors slaved to build, we get no respect. Now we over here dropping bombs, man, on another people of color. We ain't doing nothing but helping the white slave master continue his domination on all the poor people of color in the world. Man, you need to be quiet talking that Medal of Honor stuff. And brother, what you need to do is start seeing yourself as a black man, because it is time to stand up against the power of the white man. Black power, black power, black power.
You will never be accepted into the mainstream of American life. You will never get equality in America from the white man. You will never get justice in America from the white man. You will never get freedom in America from the white man.
All right, Private Johnson. Now we heard you. You said your piece. You spoke the truth. But I want to know about Lucille. Ha! I've been good to you, baby. Please don't leave me alone. Now, Lucille, you done said she's sweet as Georgia's peaches, talking about them homemade rolls you said she got. Now, you say she's fine, finer than any one of our women. But now Lorenzo over here said he got him a fine woman. Lorenzo, let's see. Woo-wee! You got you a foxy white woman. And dig this one, y'all. Man, it looks like she's about to pop. Well, right on, my fearless black brother with your pregnant white woman. I know her old man was about to tie your ass on a tree when he found out. When she having that thing? She's due in 3 weeks. Her family just found out about a month ago. I'm not gonna be there when my baby comes into the world. I can really dig what you're saying. Every day I'm here, I can just feel my mind getting blacker. Now, I don't know if you can really dig where I'm coming from, but I want this baby to be proud of me because I know who I am and where I come from. Man, it's all a trip. Nah, we haven't decided on a name yet. I told Yvonne if it's a boy, name him Fredrell. Now y'all keep saying if it's a girl and she's gonna be foxy, name her Carmen. Oh shoot, here comes that son of a bitch lieutenant again, damn.
So those are the beginning scenes of Snapshot, a true story of love interrupted by invasion. And so I share that because that day in the counselor's office, when life felt really heavy and explosive and converged within me, national, local, emotional, internally and externally. My counselor asking me that question, what about your dad? Cracked my whole story wide open. Burst me totally open to the passion of being an artist. My mom, all these years, had always said, you're not passionate about anything. You keep running around. You're going back and forth to New York and LA and all this. And I never see you passionate. But that did it. From that moment, I've been asking myself since then, and at that time, what can I do to help humans, Americans, see the ridiculousness of war and racism and class? How can I give my voice to my father's story? I want to tell the world. What can I do? And so with the show Snapshot, friends in New York said, hey, you got to take this play to Edinburgh Fringe Festival. That's how you get a play bigger in New York. That's how you can tell more people. And I was like, Edinburgh, where's that? But I decided I should go. And I remember going, Edinburgh, $30,000 invested to go. Nobody tells you that there's no possible way you can fill the seats of your house, because Edinburgh is a very small city, and there's over 1,500 shows the year that I went. Who could possibly make their money back on their investment in the show? And the dollar exchange rate at that time was 2 to 1. But something in my heart and my passion about how I had connected about my dad and seeking him and finding and seeing how his life had been destroyed, I didn't care, y'all. I was like, maybe I need to tell the world. And so Edinburgh Fringe. The question that came up then was, what happens if you get, people were like, if you get 5-star reviews, you can get the show. If you get 5-star reviews, maybe you can get this, you can tour. I got 5-star reviews. I was the only American nominated for an award that year. The New York Times interviewed me twice, and they never wrote an article about me or the show. I got reviews in the Scotsman. I got them in the Stage, but nothing. And $30,000 not earned back. I was devastated. I thought I had finally connected to my passion, like my mom said, then it would all change, right? No, I left New York and I came back home and I sat on my hillside in Kentucky. I pushed and pushed and pushed so much out, traipsing across the US to find my dad twice from New York City. I was exhausted and I just sat on the hill. Thankfully, my mom didn't ask me anything about it, really, about how I was deeply feeling or what I was going to do next. She let me almost for a year sit with the question, where do I go from here? In this part of the flow, what's next? When you get the reviews or when you sell out your shows or your books, your paintings, what do you do then? And are you okay with that? As I was sitting there, the question that came to me, and it took a while, this was not quick. 2 or 3 years I was here. Where, what did you come here for? What did you come here to do? What's your purpose, Mitzi? Are you an artist? I wasn't sure anymore, because I thought I had done everything that it seemed like you were supposed to do. That's what it looked like, the show. Do the thing, get the show. So after another year, I was here and I'm like, how am I going to work like I did in New York City? There's no work here for me. I'm talking about war and racism. No one in the Appalachians is trying to talk about this right now in 2010, 2009. So I was like, how can I get work? I am an artist. So I started thinking about touring my show at universities. Maybe young people at universities, people are progressive there. I can do that. So I started pitching myself directly to universities. Then I found out there were 2 agencies that book artists to perform at agencies. And I've been speaking at over 50 universities in America. It was hard as hell to book those gigs and get up every day with my list of people that I had called and recalled again, cold called, turned down, kept in the loop, organizing my communications to them because I wanted to get with young people and get with other staff. Like, what's your story? Like, if you connect your story the way I've been connecting it to policy and practice and how it affects individual lives, we all need, what if we start thinking about this and changing our systems? But then it seemed like I wanted to tell more about this story because my father died. And when I learned about his death, that day he died in Honolulu was actually worse than what I had discovered about his life. And I just couldn't sit with that. And I wanted to tell the whole story. I wanted to tell about us in Appalachia, what it means to be a mixed race family here. And so I set out on this whole journey of writing a screenplay, meeting at studios. And I kept hitting brick wall after brick wall, but still performing at universities and hitting brick wall and no's. So I decided to take the play to Los Angeles at Greenway Theater off of Wilshire Boulevard. I got more reviews that are here, y'all, but all the work that I did thinking producers were gonna come, that they would. And it was like Edinburgh. It felt like it all over again, money invested and small houses. It wasn't what it was at universities. My houses were full, or even in New York when I was selling tickets in New York. But something about this next phase of the journey, it was like God gave me those baby miracles. And now I was asking for bigger stuff and my faith being tested beyond, and it did not work anywhere near what I imagined. Money spent. It felt like the greatest errors of my life. And I remember going back home, coming back here to home, feeling all the weight of people here and not wanting to perform and not wanting to talk about social justice and all these things. My body started to break down and I got really sick to the point where I had to move away for about a year, physically ill. And I remember laying in the bed, y'all, going, God, if I'm gonna live, please give me more time. Give me more time to do more of this because I feel like it's needed, God. I want to get this message out to the world. And so every day as I was living in Louisville with my uncle, getting my lungs healthier and stronger, my immune system back up, I called producers at PBS. Every day I called them, pitching the show, asking them to pick the show up. And to my greatest surprise, these are some of the stations, PBS affiliates that picked it up, from Hawaii to DC to Florida to Alaska. There are more. I didn't have all the posters from it, but that's what I could share with people on my Facebook page, letting them know, look, it's getting picked up. And there was something very filling about it, or calming about it, to at least get the story back out. And so again, I was back in the space here after doing all this work for the last 2 or 3 years. Where can I work here though? I want to be home, but I'm still not finding a place to work here. How can I live in my purpose here? Sitting with that question, I got a call one day from the United Way director, Laura Gilliam and Sandra Clements, and they said, we're doing an event. We want to see if you want to help us plan. We just want to talk about racism once in Huntington. We want to change racism. We want to dismantle it. And I said, can I be part of this? Because I've been doing it at universities. Thank you for asking me. But can we use art to allow people to connect in the feelings about where they first learned about race and racism? We wrote a play. Local actors got up and performed the play. We had more than one community gathering. We had 4, and at each time when people spoke and shared, We used their comments to make a mural. There's somebody said at that event, y'all, that it was kids that could change race. It's where we start with the kids. So I said, really, you have nothing to do as an adult right now. You're not on a committee where you can see where you're advertising or something is only white folks. Can you be a voice to speak about diversity there? So we did a short film interviewing kids all over the tri-state, asking them, what is this thing called race? And from there, Laura Gilliam left, and we did not continue the work that the community had strategized and said they wanted to do. So I shifted over with Mayor Williams and the city, the diversity committee that he formed after attending our Together We Rise events. And they started the Open to All campaign. And I've been part of that Open to All campaign. Whoops, there we go. And we won the National League of Cities award for diversity in cities that are in the same have the same population as Huntington. Still not really creating other than being in my mom's dance studio. The question came back was, God, where else can I go to make a living doing what I love? Where are the collaborators that I'm used to being with in New York City? New ideas, you bring them to the table, people shut them down, or if you speak them, people take them, or they're mad that you brought it up and they didn't think about it. God, could there please be collaborators here? And so recently, getting back into community, working with Ursula Huntley, Unlimited Future, in Huntington, West Virginia on 8th Avenue, we started the 3 building mural campaign to once again get at issues of equity, diversity, and around resolving some of the policy and practice that have eradicated some of our Black history are here in the local area. So this is a picture of my company, All Here Together Productions, where we worked with the young people at Ebenezer Daycare Center, collaborating with them, Public Paint Day, creating a mural design that they created with the artists. And this is our first mural being birthed and the event this summer. So I would like to ask you all, that's a little bit about my journey. Where are you on the artist journey? What noble question are you living in? It's about, I think we're at 2 o'clock. I think it would be nice to do breakout rooms or to partner up, but I see a lot of cameras off. I don't know if people are participating in that way. Let me see, can we see by show of hands? Would you all rather just have a conversation about where you are on the artist journey and what question you're living right now? Or would you like to go into a breakout room and talk more privately about it? Can't see hands. Do you see?
Hey, Mitzi, I think you might have to stop sharing your screen and then we can go back to the.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Someone said, I'm down for whatever conversation. Okay, so I hear 2 people. Thank you for sharing. Oh, you're welcome. I'm down for whatever. Yeah, so let's see. Any brave souls? Come on, y'all are Appalachian. We're not afraid to talk to people. Conversation is fine. So I had some questions, like when I started out about the ebb and flow of being an artist, about life. What's sustainable? You can't really be putting out art all the time, but it seemed confusing to me. And I'm only today, like this week, like last week, understanding like, damn, I think my whole life really made sense up until this point now. That's one of the things that we're looking at with the Artist Thrive rubric. Like, you may be in a place where you're not thriving, and that might be okay. That might make sense for where you are. So anybody, if you just want to holler out and we'll find you, where are you in living in what part of the question? Are you in that place of not knowing, are you committed to an artistry or not? Or are you in the place of your skills? Do you have the skills, or are you in the place of like, what business practice do I need? Where are you?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
My name is Gabriel Pena. I'm a writer. I'm currently employed as a grant writer. And I am also an elected official here in the town of Fayetteville. I see so many daunting and overwhelming issues, right, that surround us every day, from public health to environmental justice, race inequality. I'm a Hispanic man living in West Virginia, and I'm raising two, mixed race daughters. And I wonder, how will I be most effective in trying to combat the injustices that I see? Should I continue on the path of a politician and try to inspire policy? Or should I stop writing grants for other organizations and start writing for myself and tell the stories that I want to tell that are on my heart, and leave my 9 to 5, leave the political life, and try to use my creativity? That's always been there. I've always been a creative person, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that outlet. Do I want that to be my livelihood? Do I want to use that as my tool, apply that trade to make the changes that I want to see in my community? So it's kind of where I'm at. I know that's really heavy, and I'm not to that point yet where I feel brave enough to be able to try to venture out and use my creativity the way I want to, because I have obligations that I have to meet. But it's very much, when I have free time, in the forefront of my mind as something that I would love to be able to explore. So.
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Is that right, Gabriel? I don't see your name again.
Pena, yes.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, right. So many things that sound very similar, paralleling. It is heavy. Like, I mean, the thing is, like, I see so much toxic positivity, like, oh, you could do it, this, da, you can do it all. Like, I don't know. I'm struggling with all those things that you're speaking about. I'm juggling, so let's be real. I appreciate your honesty. And do you have time to be creative at all? This week, have you had time, I guess, really? Because
yeah, I do. I fortunately work 3 minutes from where I live. And so I have plenty of time to get home, feed the kids, put them to bed, hour and a half at night to read, play guitar, to jot down some ideas and thoughts that I have. But, I will say kudos to the organizers, because some of the SWOT analysis that I did earlier, looking at some of the venture inventory activity, really did help me to understand where I would need to really devote my energies to truly make a go of it, to understand what's going to be required to at least try to make some revenue to support myself as an artist if I go that route. And also to figure out how I could potentially make some revenue in other ways to support my starring role.
Yeah.
And so I think, so from that standpoint, it's been very, very useful, and is what I hoped I would learn from this about myself, and the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities that are presented. But yes, I think there's time, and I would have to be more intentional about using the time that I do have in a way that helps me meet the goals that I have kind of set forth in my mind thus far, that I have not put in the universe in a concrete manner yet.
Yeah. And the support and the strengths. And, something else I was alluding to, but didn't really get deep in, there are many selves that we all have within us that develop over time, or that were quieted over time, right? So I'm sort of talking psychology. A friend of mine wrote a book called The Final Eighth, and she talks about channeling, using, honoring all those parts of who we are, and identifying, sometimes for me, I haven't been able to, like I was saying, feeling stuck. I had all the opportunities, the auditions that you could dream of, but couldn't reach my goal, seize it, grab it, claim it. And then it was finding the dad and understanding those parts of me. Why I couldn't speak, I'm Appalachian. We don't brag. I'm mixed race in the 60s. I hide because it's not safe to be mixed. So finding out also, Gabriel, sorry, when I said Daniel, I'm sorry, I got bad brain name memory. Gabriel, sorry, I apologize. But also looking at all parts of ourselves that will enable us to keep also making the choices you see in your conscious mind, organizing in your strengths. What also is going on in your subconscious mind that will also need to be looked at and support all those choices that you may make and change. So one of the things I want to say also before we get too close, and I would like to hear from someone else, the Artist Thrive Summit, because you just did this today and finding, sounds like people are having aha moments, right? The Artist Thrive Summit is happening next week and so I would like to share with you the link. It can be free to you all that you can attend the summit. Let me put the link in the chat. So if you register today, so finding more support, y'all, is my goal for you, hearing just this comment from Gabriel. Let me get to everyone. I'm gonna put this in the chat. Today is the last day to register and get the packet. They are sending out packets so they can mail it to you. It's not the last day to register. Please feel free to put 0 charge in there. You can attend for free. It's a whole week-long event. There are more opportunities to explore and find support and consider. So can y'all can see that there. I see someone in the chat, Matt, if you can go, thank you, Gabriel, so much for sharing and being so honest with us. Would anybody else, yes, would anybody else like to share out, where are you on this journey? What questions are you entertaining? Would love to have one more at least before our time is up. And I see one in the chat. Some other brave soul, can't just be me and Gabriel, huh? Kelly, Emily, Monica, Sandra, Frederick, you're at the desk somewhere. What are y'all doing? Where are you in your journey? What questions are you living right now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I think that for me, artistically, I'm at a point of trying to focus my artistry because I've always been very here and there. And although I create and I'm constantly creating, I'm generally focused on nonprofit and volunteerism. So just focusing my artistry and focusing on making my art maybe a little bit more working for me rather than working for everybody else.
Right.
And I think that having already raised like one artist and having 2 younger artists, I have a 20-year-old who is like an artist, and then in reflection it's like, oh, like I'm giving you advice I don't actually like take myself. So it's like a family joke of like, oh, you're so great at volunteering for things. So I think that's where I am right now.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. And, I can relate to the variety of ways of being creative and being an artist. And so maybe at some point too, it's Kylie, right?
Yeah.
Kylie, and everybody, like, I'm sure all of you are diverse creators. And it's like, I just decided finally, like, I am this whole pie where you get a slice of cheesecake, you get a slice of the strawberry, the vanilla, the marble, chocolate. Like, you're not going to get one kind of pie for me. And so that's my goal, or I've been working in that way of, diversifying and trying to make those things make money and cutting off the boundaries of when I volunteer or when I get paid. Right. Yeah. especially our economic challenges right now in the country and the world have sort of forced us all to look at that, I think. Yeah. Thank you. Well, hopefully as you keep doing this and find community, and that's why I say Artists Thrive, y'all, if you can attend any parts of that, go ahead and register so that you can hear other artists and creatives, how they're solving some of these issues or struggling with them, or being inspired by others who are making, you know, progress in some of those ways. Thank you so much, Kylie. I see in the chat a few things here. Let me really quickly get to that. I see finding my place over the next year. I have many irons, right? We're also capable and diverse. Part-time as a job coach, a student, and art therapy. I wish to work with young children. I'm 63. I worry I won't be able to find place when I graduate next year. I've experienced teaching preschool. All these amazing things, Barb. My parent had dementia, and that takes up a lot of time. I know I have an artist's heart and journey as an artist. When I think about doing all I need to make contacts and networks is when I feel I will fail because I don't have that much time left in a day. Woo, Barb, sister, that's what we're all saying. How do we, you know, I don't know, y'all. It's like, how do you be okay with yourself today and what you can achieve? And how do you make plans to accomplish something tomorrow that's close to what you want? Yes, those are the questions. Lindsay, in a marriage for 10 years where I put myself needs last, and now divorced, now navigating and being an individual, an artist. And I have been scaling my business, creating prints and stand-up comedy. It's scary and daunting at times because I never stood out on my own 2 feet before. Yes, Lindsay. All right. Feeling alive. Is everybody feeling really grounded though and alive when you make these choices to be creative? That was one of the things I got tired of, jumping out of my skin. All until I got deep in it, I was constantly jumping out of my skin. But then I was, instead of like, oh, maybe I can temp while I'm home. Then all of a sudden I was like, yo, you can reach out to the whole world on the internet now. Get reaching. And as soon as I started doing more and more of that, I started to have some success. Yes. Thank you, Lindsay. Liz, art hobby for years. And in 2009, in the Charleston artwork was her turning point. She started her business, Studio Liz, on Facebook, full-time job, and hoping that I can put enough time into the business. Yes. The whole pie. Everybody, I'm so proud of everybody for, you know, showing up today, to committing yourself to being creative. We know that artists and the connections that we make with people and souls, the souls of people, are some of the most needed things on the planet today. And if each of us can take time to honor ourselves and honor the questions that we're living as artists, and and share our work with others. Daniel, I see, yeah. Danielle, taking care of my parents away all the way in Europe for the past 5 years, and her father passed, and she's taking care of her mom. It takes a lot of her time and leaves her with less resources for her professional life. Yes. So many of us, that's that ebb and flow. I can totally relate to that. Somehow there has to be something that no matter where we are, y'all, that we love and care for ourselves right in that space. I want to ask, before I read my last, it's time to go. Can you take your right hand over your heart and your left hand like wrap under your waist? And so that you just sort of take a deep breath and give yourself a loving hug. And if you take another deep breath and that you smile into your heart at yourself for all the things that you had, the journey you have traversed thus far, and all the questions that you've entertained and lived to bring you to this moment. And remind yourself that this casing of your soul, how powerful, amazing, having gone through the pain, the beauty, the glory, and falling again and rebirthing again and trying again. no matter what stages we are in, if you can just, even in one moment, take a time to smile deeply into yourself. I'd like to read this last slide to you. From Letters to a Young Poet. I want to beg you as much as I can, dear sir, to be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and to try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign language or foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. So I want to say thank you all for this time listening to parts of my story. I share it not because I need to be in the focus of your screen, but because I hope that it inspires questions within you, that you will live the answer. And I'm just like you every day, questioning, but I find in every moment, if I get with me, even in the confusion and the doubt, show compassion to me, I can give that to others. So I want to say thank you again. Thank you to Renee and Domenica. And I see your comments here. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Any other things? Oh, wait, I want to say, okay, here's one thing I do want to throw out, y'all. If there are any groups in town where you all would want to gather in a pub, a club, a bar, a restaurant during the Artist Thrive, I will advocate on your behalf in a group of artists to have Artist Thrive sponsor your gathering with food and drink if you have a group of people gathering. So if you want to reach out to Domenica, if you're in Charleston or wherever you are, if you participate, and we give you an opportunity to further share and talk about some of the things that you're experienced today, but just to fellowship and support each other. So if you are so moved and have a group of artists, please let me know and I can arrange for that. You would choose the place and produce it yourself, but we would supply the finances to get some food and something for that evening, or because there are several evenings and lunches. If you wanted to make it a lunch or a gathering or something, we would support that. Please make sure you have that link. I was up there further. Let me try it one more time. See if I have it on that. Yep, there it is. Artist Thrive, you can register for that. And if you ever get to the rubric, maybe you will, maybe you won't. So thank you very much for your time, y'all.
Thank you so much, Mitzi. We all really appreciate you sharing your story with us and encouraging us to reflect meaningfully on our own as well. I think we're going to take a little bit of a break, about 5-6 minutes, and then come back together for our panel discussion with the Emerging Artist Fellows. During that time, we encourage you to step away from your computer, take a little bit of a screen break, but we'll see you back here in just a couple minutes.
Thank you again so much, and we'll see you in just a few for the artist panel.
Moment has come where we can now ask questions to the emerging artists. So I know we've been waiting and excited about this all day long. As I mentioned earlier, I gave some biographical information before we broke for lunch, but just a quick reminder, we have Susan Morgan here. She is a textile artist from Buchanan. Kelsey Tyson is coming from Lewisburg. She is more than one kind of artist, so I'm at a loss to say exactly, we'll just say multidiscipline. Nicole Westfall and Brandy Jeffries. So These folks are here with us today. We have Emily Prentice, who is joining us from her studio in Elkins. And Blake Wheeler, unfortunately, can't join us for the Q&A, but he will be here later for the closing of the reception. And just to mention that that will be live. Before we go further, I just want to say another thanks to Marshall University, specifically the School of Art and Design. Everyone has made us feel so welcome. And this day has gone without a hitch from what I see. And I really, really appreciate it. If you people out in the virtual land have yet to visit the School of Art and Design, you really should do yourselves a favor. It is a state-of-the-art facility. It's beautiful. It will inspire you to come back to school, I can assure you. I'm making plans to take some classes later in the spring. So with that, I will just really invite you to ask your questions. And if I feel like your question can be answered specifically by one artist, if I feel like that's their level of expertise or it's on point for them, I might guide that conversation to be started in that way. But otherwise, we really want to hear from you. And so I will stop speaking so you have a chance to ask your questions to the fellows.
I have a question
Okay, yes, please go ahead.
because so people will get talking. No, but I'm wondering, you all, how's it feeling being a fellow? How supported do you feel? How is it shifting your work being a fellow?
And that seems like a question everyone can answer. So Brandy, would you like to start?
Oh gosh. Well, firstly, the stipend that came with the fellowship allowed me to finally transition from a full-time 9 to 5:30 desk job. And while I still have a day job, it's now part-time. It's also an art-centric day job. So I work at the Red Caboose here in Huntington, and we sell local and regional artisans like artwork or even like food and all kinds of stuff like that. And it's been so nice to both transition to a backup job that is arts adjacent in a way that also I have a background in retail, so I have those skills as well. So it's very suited for me there. And then also allowing me the free time to actually make the work that's hanging in the gallery, because when I was working full time, I could only paint maybe 3 or 4 small paintings a year. And I've already done 4 large paintings this year. So that's quite an improvement.
To tuck in just a little bit more before we move on to Nicole, Brandy, I couldn't help but notice that you were featured in the newest edition of Taste of West Virginia. Do you feel like some of the showcasing that the fellowship has provided has led you to other opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had a lot of press reach out to me. Not a lot, but like Joel Bennett at Taste West Virginia, also had Tim Ear from WSAZ. We spoke back when I first announced that I'd gotten the fellowship, and we spoke for like 45 minutes on a Facebook Live with like a lot of viewers. And yeah, it's opened up a lot of doors. I've been able to network both with like from media reach, also from my new job, from people being introduced to the fellowship and with my fellow artists. So it's been an absolute boon. There's no other way I can describe it other than a boon, for sure.
So that's our goal, and we're happy to hear that. That's great. Nicole, what experiences have you been having since being awarded the fellowship?
I feel like it's very similar to what Brandy has described. I feel like I received financial and emotional support to be able to really transition into being a full-time artist. And also just the ability to attend some of the workshops that then give me the tools to do it in a way that's sustainable, because I feel like I've been fumbling through it. And I've had that support, and I'm so gracious for it. And then also with networking, I've been terrible with it before in the past. This has just been a push in the right direction.
Okay, I'm glad that you touched on that. For those folks out there who don't know every step of the fellowship, we do want to provide business skill set experiences that are on point. So not simply, telling you how to keep your books, but how to think about it in a way that relates to your creativity. So I'm glad that you found that to be a value to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kelsey, how has this fellowship impacted you?
I feel like the fellowship really has given me a confidence to like be an artist in West Virginia and networking throughout the state, and like really just giving me confidence and assurance that like I can keep my studio practice alive while living in my hometown, which I haven't lived in since I graduated high school. And that's been really amazing. And also, of course, the stipend's been wonderful. For me, I like working in like kind of installation multimedia things. So the stipend really helped me be able to afford the materials that I need to make those things happen. And because of that, I like get to make really fulfilling art. Yeah, so it's just overall made me feel confident and happy.
Yeah, great. Susan, what's been happening in your life since the fellowship?
I think of one word, and that is bravery. It has made me able to kind of tamp down some of my insecurities and feel braver, more brave to reach out and put myself out there and take a chance. I think support from the fellows themselves, all the foundation support staff, and people that are related that are other levels out that I didn't know about, have all started following me on social media, and it's really been helping me to basically feel more brave. So I think that's what I'm getting right now.
Great. As we wait for additional questions to queue up, I wanted to ask you guys about your experience with working with our videographer, Braden Maddox of Mountain Lady Films. What was that like for you all? And how did you overcome your, I can only imagine, nervousness, but to step forward into allowing yourself to be showcased in a video?
So Renee, just to interrupt really quick, we do have some questions coming in. First question is from Lindsay, and she's asking, what does your creative process look like? I think that maybe we can have Emily start with that. That feels like another question that's a good for everybody question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Domenico.
All right, so what does my creative process look like? Recently, let's back this up one more step. Recently, unfortunately, in the past year or so, I contracted COVID, and it took a while for me to get over that. It was no joke. I would 10 out of 10 not recommend that. However, within all of this brain fog that I was experiencing, within all of this like change in the way that I was thinking, I came across this idea of being scatterbrained. Like scatterbrained as something that I could kind of like put on myself as part of my art practice, trying to like turn those lemons into lemonade a little bit. And I feel like my creative process now is using that scatterbrain. So it's going wide, moving in a lot of different directions and seeing what connections I can find, and then finding a medium and kind of wandering down a creative path from there. So it's less funneling, it's less like honing in on one specific thing, and more just letting a lot of things hit me and then seeing what sticks.
Thanks, Emily. And sorry, because your body wasn't here in the room, I skipped you. I apologize.
No, that's totally fine.
Domenica, do we have another question queued up?
Yes, we do. I do want to say in the class, someone named Lindsay says, I took a class from Emily and it was life-changing. So that's some sweet feedback. Another question coming from Candy. It says this morning, Mark Harshman spoke to art as salvation. Will anyone speak to this from their personal perspective? Anybody on our panel want to talk about that a little?
Actually, I'll go again too, if that's okay. I have lots of thoughts about this. I came into my art practice, the reason I started drawing, the reason I started doing what I'm doing, because I had an anxious, essentially a mental breakdown. I was about like 24 or 25. Things seemed like they were going really well, and then suddenly, wham, just something hit. And in order to kind of get out of my head, I started drawing. I never thought that was really like going to go anywhere. Drawing wasn't my concentration in school. I was already kind of down this artsy path, but this wasn't like a direction I was like actively moving in. But I would draw every day to get out of my head. And in some way that felt like a salvation to me. And it was really like shocking and surprising. And I'm still overwhelmed by the fact that people want my art. That came out of this place of just like extreme panic and feeling extremely overwhelmed and not quite sure what the next step was. Art was my salvation, and now it's like my buoy. It's making me go even higher than where I ever thought possible. So that particular quote like really resonated with me, and I'm so glad you asked that question, Candy. I know we actually talked about that a little bit too, so thank you.
I know that a lot of you are tackling, deeper subjects with your work, such as like what it is to be human and make art for a variety of different reasons. So I'd love to hear from someone else on the panel too, because I know you guys are being a little shy.
I think for me, art as salvation, I think a lot of my work is like, all of my work is like very much me. It's very personal. I try to like take a step back and kind of, I don't want to share too much, but I want to share enough to where people feel like they can relate. And so a lot of my work has been about body image and like fatness and kind of like roots and like growing up Appalachian and like believing a stereotype. And I think like as I've grown as an artist and made work, I've kind of understood myself a little bit better, or accepted myself, or like felt like an advocate for like who I am and what I look like, where I'm from. And yeah, that's like why I keep doing that. And I like say this all the time, but I believe that I feel like we're vulnerable as people and like listen to each other. Hi, Nima. Oh my gosh, Nima and I have been friends since like high school. Sorry. So if I'm vulnerable and my work kind of speaks to this like rawness, maybe in a gallery or like in a public space, then people can talk amongst each other that are viewing it. And that's a lot of like why I make art. And I guess that's like my salvation too. Yeah.
Kelsey, when did you dive in and realize that stereotypes given to Appalachians was either I don't know that inspiring is the right word, but motivating you and having an impact on your art making? When did that happen?
Yeah, when I went to grad school, I moved to Philadelphia in 2018. I'm from Lewisburg, West Virginia. I got my BFA from Marshall in 2017, and then 2018 I moved to Philadelphia and started at Tyler School of Art at Temple University. And I was really young. Like so many people that go to get their MFA are older because it's your terminal degree in studio art. And I was really young, and like that people made that very clear to me, that they felt like I wasn't always at the same level as them because I was like 23. Whoa. I'm 26 now, so clearly so mature. But and then I also was like colleagues with people who like came from a lot more privilege from me. I totally recognize that I myself am privileged in many ways, but I grew up poor, and I was able to go to school through scholarships. I was a first generation college student. And even through grad school, I still had to work a job. And a lot of people like to make hillbilly jokes or like, just like not think about their own experiences as ever having, it felt like they thought they were better than me a little bit all the time. And so I felt, it was so funny because when I was younger, I wanted to leave West Virginia. I wanted to get away. And I think my piece downstairs kind of is like talking about that a little bit, but now I just want to be back. And like in grad school, I realized that I have things to say about Appalachia and West Virginia that people need to listen to, because we are awesome people and we're really smart and we are like providing power and like a lot of stuff to the rest of the country, just saying. So yeah, so that's kind of where I decided that I was going to be proud and like make people think about what they're saying about hillbillies.
Brandy, I see you and Nicole are sort of nodding. This is resonating with you. Do you have anything you'd like to add to those comments?
Well, speaking on like, I guess, artist salvation, like Emily, I too sort of had like an anxiety mental situation that interrupted my life completely and had to rebuild. And it's coming through that, came up with like some new diagnoses and learned kind of how my brain works. And I like to hyper focus a lot. When I have something I like, I just dive deep and I go right into it. And being an oil painter, being kind of nerdy about local eateries and things like that, it's sort of, art has sort of allowed me to cobble a life around me than trying to grab different pieces and stretch myself out to meet them. Great, yeah.
Are you looking at me?
Yes, anything to add? Only if you want, only if you have something to add.
As everyone's talking about art as salvation, I think that for me as well, creating art has been a way for me to process my experiences. I think of it kind of as I should be in therapy, but instead I make art. And I've noticed that, I don't know why it took me so long to notice, but I have two different things happening. I feel like that's, of course it would happen with me being biracial. I would enjoy the split thing. And so there's this part of me that creates art, more conceptual art that's very much so driven in my identity as an Asian woman who grew up in Appalachia, who felt very much so like the other, even though maybe it necessarily wasn't that way. I had always felt that way and I explored in that part. And then there's the part that does like public art, which I want that to be the more joyful version of myself, because I want to contribute something that will bring that to the people who experience it. And this is something that I, for some reason, never really noticed until I dove into doing this all the time as my full-time gig, as just creating art all of the time has forced me to see this about myself as a person. And I think that that's what creating art does for me, is it makes me look at myself in a way that I would have never seen.
Susan, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
I guess what Nicole was saying was resonating with me. When I was in my 20s, I was very active politically. And then as I went more into my adulthood, other things took precedence and I didn't do so much in that sphere. But once I started making my art again in my 30s, I started wanting to explore social issues and environmental issues. And now what I'm doing gives me a way to not only express myself, but to think about the things that matter to me. As I'm creating, sometimes my work is slow, especially when I'm embroidering, and it gives me a lot of time to think through these complex issues and see if I can't figure it out, at least for myself. So I think that's how it is salvation for me. It keeps my brain active and gives it an outlet.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And it's really good to hear everyone's perspectives, especially after hearing from Mitzi in the last hour. It seems like there are these overlaps with everyone, how art comes into processing, how we're living our lives, how the environment around us is. And I think that that's really awesome. We do have a couple more questions coming in through the chat. One of the questions, which I think might be a good one for Nicole, is Nicole and also Kelsey, is from Nima. And she asks, what is the creative process for you all when creating a physically large art piece? Do you consider the space or size it will take when it's displayed first, or do you just trust the process?
Sure. I think it's a mix of both. I feel like with creating large artwork, I need to see the space. That way you can understand how it's going to complement the area in which you're making it for, but also just in general with making art, it's trusting the process. It's just like whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's kind of like life. You have a plan for it, and then it just kind of unfolds in the way that it's going to. In college, I wanted everything to be very specific and perfect, and nothing wonderful really came out of it until just letting it go, because we don't have control of anything really.
I think for me, it's like a mix of both. When I'm making something big, it started for this idea of like this question that I asked myself a few years ago, like, can big things be intimate? And that's just like me coming from being like a fat woman and not feeling like I was something that could be desired or loved or whatever. And it's like, duh, big things can be intimate. And so I started thinking about space, not necessarily taking up like space 2D on the wall or like on the floor, but like encompassing an entire room. Sorry. And I think Courtney Lester, she's an Indigenous artist. I was based in New Mexico. I don't know where she's at right now, but I had a conversation with her that really inspired me to start doing that. Courtney Leonard, I'm so sorry. Taking up space like through a room. And so then I just like started making big stuff. And that was really easy to do because I was in grad school and I had a studio that was provided for me and like some funding too. And then also seeing the space helps a lot too. So if I know that I have an exhibition or a show coming up and knowing where I'm going to be, I'm kind of like, okay, let's take up all the space. And then I did a project this summer, actually. My hometown had its first Pride celebration in Lewisburg, and I helped organize that. And I designed these Pride banners. So the banners go on the lamppost, and the lamppost throughout the downtown area. And that was just awesome thing to do. I think it was just like, I don't know how big they are. They're like 3 by 5 feet. I don't know. But like that was a whole nother way of taking up space and like asserting self and identity and like creating like recognition that I had not even really like been able to do yet or thought about. It was like taking up space literally on the map of like the downtown area of where I grew up. Yeah, so that was cool. And I guess I had to think a lot. I had to plan my process more than other pieces that I've made in doing that.
So we have another question as well. This comes from Susan. She asks, how has listening to observations from people seeing your work helped clarify the message or led your work to evolve? And I think we can just let whoever wants to dive on that one hop on.
I can talk a little bit about that. let me read it one more time because I had half of a thought. Yes, okay, I wanted to talk about Hilma af Klint for a second, who is a Swedish mystic and painter and somebody that I talk about all the time. One of my favorite artists of all time. She created works, giant works in secret because she believed that she was channeling a voice beyond her and that the work was only supposed to be seen after she had passed. And that's kind of what happened. She wasn't critically acclaimed in any way until after she was gone. I think there was a Guggenheim exhibit in like 2018 that was incredibly popular. And I think about her a lot when I think about the message that I'm trying to give, where there's this disconnect between what is coming from me or through me onto paper or onto a piece of art, and then what another person perceives. And that's a really interesting place to be, but I don't know that it necessarily affects the work I'm creating. I'm interested in that outcome, but I don't think it shifts the thing that I'm making, because in some ways I feel like the message the person seeing my work gets is not necessarily my business. I hope it resonates with them, but as long as the message is received, I consider it kind of sent. I know that's kind of weird, but I just think of Hilma a lot and consider the fact that I'm channeling and the message may not have anything to do with me or what I'm actually creating. It's rather what the person's seeing.
That's really, thank you for that. I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I have been following her path, her story, and watching that unfold. And I'm wondering, we're talking about scale here and folks who actually take up a space in a literal sense. And it seems like, Emily, with you, you are taking up a lot of space, but it's not the same kind of space. It is more this ethereal space. How do you dive into that?
That's really interesting. I'm not quite sure I'd ever thought like exactly about my work in that way. Yes, in some ways I do feel like the physical art product is less important than like the thought that's going into it. But I think mainly whenever I'm making work, I think I'm just interested in the way that other people can think, the way that like maybe what I'm creating can help someone else create more. So I guess it's kind of action oriented too. Maybe that's the right word for it. It's like, yes, it's like this art that exists in this space, but what I'm really trying to do is like make art that makes folks want to make art, or make art that makes folks want to do things. Yeah, I have to sit with that a little more. I don't think I have a good answer for that quite yet.
Okay. I see Brooke is asking a question. Dominica?
Yes, Brooke says, do you ever feel that your Appalachian identity helps or hinders your work? Could be in terms of creative process or recognition and outreach. For instance, there's a growing appetite for Appalachian voices on a national scene. Do you therefore feel pressured to address Appalachia in your work?
I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know there was a growing appetite for us. That's surprising to me. I don't know if I have an answer. That's what I thought of. So
I think I'd like to hear from Nicole a little bit on this, because I know that we get these insider outsider feelings from living here. And I wonder if you're feeling that pressure and if anybody else is feeling that pressure.
I feel the pressure as much as I would feel the pressure to identify as Appalachian just personally, which isn't as much anymore, I guess. I feel like it doesn't hinder my art practice. if anything, I've been extremely embraced being here, because I feel like my narrative hasn't been heard as often. And so people want to hear it. And yeah, I think that it's something that definitely helps with my art practice more than it hinders it. Growing up, I definitely, as well as like I'm getting out of here immediately, I left for like a year and a half and then was like, no, I miss it, I need to come back. And that's all I have to say about it.
And I know that Appalachia influences really everyone's work that I've seen. Do you guys feel like the work you make comes from a place of expectation to be a certain way, or do you guys feel like it's a representative of something really core?
Really, what was that last word?
Core, like core to your identity.
It's interesting because I feel like as an Appalachian and like being from Southern West Virginia, it's like no one's really cared before, or only cared to like make fun. And so it's like, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. And I feel like I do what I want to do in my artwork. And right now I'm making work about being Appalachian, which is like super cool. And it is kind of like a like twist and turn though, because there are so many like people interested in learning about like the Appalachian experience, or like being like, ooh, Appalachia, like Hillbilly Elegy, the Hillbilly Elegy. I can't remember the author's name, but like, don't read it, don't watch it. It's awful. It just kind of plays on the stereotypes of like everyone being like poor and on drugs and stuff in Appalachia. And so I do feel kind of, again, like I was talking about earlier, kind of like showing what Appalachia really is, and like being like positive about the growth, like because the badness that are part of stereotypes of folks in Appalachia is also badness that resonates throughout the rest of America. And that's something I learned just from getting out of Appalachia. Like I thought when I moved to a big city, I would get rid of like the bigotry and like not see as many racists and like blah, 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 blah. But they're there. It's just a bigger population, so they can hide easier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, touching on that, I have where I paint like local food and try and get very specific with what I paint. I have felt pressure about representing an Appalachian identity, but that pressure is for other Appalachians. The pressure that I feel is the pressure to be true to me and my Appalachian experience, and not to anyone outside. Like my paintings are very much, if you know, you know. Like you might like a painting of this messy biscuit sandwich, but if you're from West Virginia, you know that that's Tudor's biscuits. So like, if you know, you know. Like, yeah, no, my pressure is all, I feel, and it's all been positive and mostly positive and positively reinforced. And like, that's the part that keeps me going, is connecting with other people that I probably wouldn't speak with just because I'm mostly hermited away in my studio by myself, you know? So it's very much been a way for me to connect with other Appalachians, I feel.
That's really lovely to hear. And on that note of connecting with other Appalachians and everyone else on the call that's been giving us questions, we have Sandra who says, thank you for putting the summit together. I hope this is a first in an annual series. Many artists who are in school now are attending today. Do y'all have any advice for them? Do you guys have any hurdles you can help them prepare for?
Okay, I have one, which is if you make something that you don't like, and that you think is not good, throw it away. I hope people can understand that from my perspective. Sometimes I do things that are just not right. They just didn't work out. And people in my family are horrified that I would throw it away. But it's a great relief. And I would say, let go if you need to. So that would be advice I would give to somebody in school.
I would say let go as well, but more like let loose. While you're in school, I would take every opportunity to experiment with everything that you can. If you're even slightly interested in something, you should try it. Because if you get obsessed with having a specific image to your work, or so that it all looks consistent, you're gonna get stuck in it. And I would say just try everything that you have even a little inkling for, because you never know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, I agree with Nicole so much. Like I had stress before about like my work not appearing consistent in a portfolio, but I had a mentor tell me that like it's all coming out of you. So it's like all yours, like it's all consistent because it's all yours. And like, that's you. And it made like, that just made everything feel better. Yeah.
Emily, do you have anything to add?
I always have so much to add with stuff like this. I was trying to like edit myself a little bit in my head. I think the main thing I would say is to like always follow your own curiosity, because that's the surest path to making the art you want to make. I'd say don't be afraid to experiment, because experiments are where the magic happens. And it's totally okay to be a big weirdo. I am, and I love it. And that's where a lot of great art comes from. So just keep making art.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just talking so much, but I will also say like, don't see your peers or other artists as your competition. They are your friends and your colleagues, and like how you're going to help each other grow, especially in a world that doesn't necessarily like put an emphasis on art. It's really important to stick together, because art is not only expressing yourself, but for me, I really believe that it's a means of like, in the world we live in now, like proving that you can accomplish things and like finish projects and like feel like you're being heard. So definitely like make friends. Everybody's good at art. It just depends on like someone's eye. Like, I don't even know. That wasn't even the prettiest way I wanted to say that, but yeah.
All right, so I also have another question that came in from Nima, and she says, I have a question for Nicole. I really enjoyed your piece with the tiger swimming. The color blue resonates so well with water and the animal swimming, but I was curious, why did you choose the shrimps as the pattern?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. That's very sweet for you to say. They're actually crawdads. I don't know if they're I don't know if shrimp and crawdads are actually different, but I chose the crawdads because I am not sure what it means really to be Appalachian, even though I grew up here, and I feel like that's probably enough. And so the fondest memory I have as a child is my dad would take me down the holler into this creek, and we would go down there to look at rocks, and I would catch as many crawdads as I could. I would put them in, you know, like jars of dirty creek water and bring them home, which is not good practice. Don't take them away from where they live. But I was a child. And so I wanted to use it in this piece because this piece is about identity, of course, and the juxtaposition, I guess, of what is preconceived of what you should be and what's laid out for you. And that's why I put all of the text into the tiger and the specific parts of what it should look like. And then the bottom is opposing it as how much does your identity come from the environment in which you're created in. And that's why I chose them, the crawdads. Memories.
From the chat, we have somebody saying, Julia says West Virginia is one of the only places in North America that has blue crawdads in our local ecosystem. So,
I swear it's true. Sorry to jump in audibly, but when you were talking about it, I was like, that is so serendipitous and like perfect for her. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that moving forward about the blue crawdads.
It'll come into another piece for her.
Okay, great.
wow, that's awesome. As we've been talking here about a variety of different questions, one thing that's coming up for me that seems to be a thread is that a lot of you are pretty involved with your communities and like not just making public art, but actually actively involved in, you know, being a part of your community and being with people in your community. Do you guys want to describe a little bit about how you feel your art practice overlaps with where you live and the people in the area? I know, and I'm kind of wondering, I know that there was a piece called My Buchanan in the show that Susan Morgan did. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what inspired that and how you were feeling about that when you made it?
It was a piece where I was just taking a break from having some kind of a social political message. I needed to do something that was just kind of from my heart. I live in a community that's very arts oriented. And so like with all my pieces, all the images that I use, I've taken those photographs from my local area with my camera. And then I make a silk screen and screen them on to the fabric and then continue from there. So when I was doing My Buchanan, I had taken pictures of the downtown buildings, local fencing. And then I started thinking about my world. So I have family in Seattle there. I thought, okay, the Space Needle needs to go in there. We're such an arts oriented community. I lifted non-copyrighted images of art, like the Venus de Milo, the Scream. I can't think of what are the things that are in there, and put those in there just to represent my love of art, and Buchanan's love of art. So it's a personal one. And I just wanted it to be whimsical. So that's that one.
So Brandy, I know that you were talking earlier about your position in like retailing art in town. Do you feel like that has let you get in touch with more people in your community? How do you feel like that has overlapped with your life as an artist?
Oh, like it's hard to quantify exactly because it is a lot of the networking aspects because at the Record Boots, we work with a lot of other organizations around town, be they like governmental or private or nonprofit or whatever. We also work with a lot of artists and artisans, of course, and it's been nice to just, I don't know, if nothing else, just have a conversation with creatives every day. Like I haven't had that since art school or like since getting my BFA, which I completed in 2012. So I was kind of starving for that interaction. And that's been extremely nice. It's been nice. We get a lot of, artists who are just starting to sell things. So it's been really gratifying and of course, that comes with a lot of uncertainties on parts of the new folk. And so it's been nice to be a few steps ahead in that same journey and be like, okay, well, here's what I've done for my stuff. And I have that personal experience to share with them, not just the shop stuff. And be like, well, there are these options that you could do. And here's what would work best for here at the Red Caboose. Here's what would work best for maybe some other things along that nature. And a huge part of it is also my coworkers. I work with a photographer and an author. And so we get to talk shop all the time. And I've never had that either. So it's just like, and they're lovely and it's amazing.
I guess a question I have that sort of aligns with this is about the support you've received in your community and confidence. So you all appear very confident here and full of knowledge and wisdom. Everyone included in this conversation. So I'm wondering, where did that begin? Is that something that happened in your childhood with your parents encouraging you? Did you receive encouragement? How do these conversations that Brandy is referring to, where she has something that she can pass on, coming into a space where she was in isolation, but then is now becoming a mentor, as well as being mentored by others, how does that affect you and your confidence level to choose this path?
It's helped giving me the confidence to fake it. The confidence. Anyway, it's been gratifying to know that everybody is super nervous about it. And so it's just like, oh, okay, I just got to get through. It's almost like when you're working on a painting or something and you're halfway through and you can't oh, is the thing I'm working on terrible or is it just not finished? Everybody has that anxiety, and socially it was the same for me. So it's just oh, okay, everybody else is anxious about talking about this stuff too. So that helps give myself permission to fake it. So.
Yeah, we have had a question come up. Someone was asking, I can't remember who you are, I lost you in the chat, but someone was asking if it's easier to be making the art or to talk about the art. And I think that everyone is probably going to have the same answer for that. So show of hands, is it harder to talk about the art?
Yes. Okay. And Nicole, you seem to have the most instant reaction to that.
I think that artwork is very vulnerable, and it's hard to do that with people. I think it's even harder to do it virtually than it is face to face, because you don't know how people are going to react to it and if they're going to receive the message that you're putting into it. And doing public artwork, you don't know if someone's going to destroy it. And it's hard to describe things when you don't necessarily know what's really going into it anyway. And I think, like Brandy's saying, I've been faking it till I make it this whole time. Absolutely. I started just like painting murals. I had no idea how to do it. And then I just tried it and acted like I knew what I was doing. And that's been this whole time.
Here's another good one. This is totally aligned with what we are talking about right now. Lindsay says, how do you bypass imposter syndrome in your art practice? I feel like everyone has their tricks. And yes, Emily, I was going to pitch this one to you.
Okay, yeah, I had a thought and then it went away and now I have it again. Oh, I know exactly what it is. Okay, you cannot be an imposter in your art practice if creativity is your birthright, and creativity belongs to everyone. So that's easier said than done, but there's no such thing as being an imposter with being an artist, because we all are artists.
Wow.
You should trademark that, Emily. Have a shirt made.
Yeah. For me, my imposter syndrome, like I had a mentor just be like that. I was like being like, I just don't know if I'm like good enough. Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, that's imposter syndrome, Kelsey. and then also going to therapy helped me feel better about that too. Like I mentioned, I'm first generation college student, and I went to art school. So that was kind of like, I had a lot of like distant family members be like, why you're so smart? Why didn't you become a doctor? Like, and so like art is therapy, but also going to therapy is like also important. So like doing that helped. And then like, I think as I made my artwork, I kind of like as I make artwork, I become more aware of myself. And then the confidence is there, and then kind of feel like for me, like being confident, or at least like having this exerted extension of confidence is like trying to inspire others and the communities I'm in or I care about, which for me would be like family, hometown, West Virginia, Appalachians as a whole, queer folk, like everything that I really feel aligned with. I just like we're just doing it because someone has to, and like I can't be afraid of myself anymore, kind of.
And to build on what Kelsey said, like, yes, like therapy is important. Like getting medicated if you need it is important. Taking care of your health physically is important. And if I could touch back on a question a few back with what advice would you have to give? It's don't fall for the myth of the tortured artist.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. That is not where creativity comes from. That is, no. That is a poisoned pill that will be the end of you 100%.
Yeah, like working yourself to death and like feeling like you have to be this poor artist. Like we're all examples right now that in the state of West Virginia, you have support emotionally, physically, financially, as long as you just like find and look for those opportunities. And we all found the Tamarack Foundation.
Yes.
And that's helped each of us be able to like feel confident in who we are, like literally in the last like 6 months. Yeah. I've watched all of us grow tremendously since getting the award. So.
Well, that's our goal. So that's good news.
Yeah, we do have, let's see, we have one more. I think we have time for one more real quick. This is one for Kelsey. It's from Nima. Says, I haven't visited the exhibition yet, but I was wondering, what is the theme behind your ceramics artwork? And was the orangish pumpkin color inspired by the sunflowers in the piece?
The piece that I have downstairs, the installation, it's titled River Road, which is the road I grew up on. And it's just like a lot of thoughts of thinking about like memory and like generational poverty versus generational wealth. Because I feel like I read a lot about generational wealth, but I'm like, what about these cycles of like poverty and trauma that like most people carry on? And for me, I feel like me and my sister kind of are breaking those cycles. And so the orange, like pumpkin-y color, I was kind of thinking about like rust from like industry and like left behind, like industry throughout Appalachia with coal mining, steel, logging, all those things. And for ceramics, ceramics is like my first true love in art. And I got my ceramics degree from Marshall, but before that, I like completely forgot that like growing up, my aunts and my mom all did ceramics and clay, and they would like bisque figures and like paint them. And I've been doing it my whole life and I never really realized it. And for me, I just wanted to like make something that felt normal and safe and easy while I tried to like branch into a new realm of artwork, trying to talk about like how I grew up and being from Appalachia and what that experience was like. Yeah. I think talking about your artwork is hard. I also feel like I talk too much about it. It's like a ramble. But writing is the hardest part, just side note. Writing is harder than talking about artwork for me. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so we do have time for one more. And this is another one sort of related to like claiming yourself as an artist and finding your place and getting over that imposter feeling. It's from Sarah, and she says, when did you know or feel you were good enough to make a living off your art? I'm self-taught and always worry I'm not good enough to make a living, sometimes to even say I'm an artist. Does anybody feel like they've had a really stunning turning point, or is it sort of a gradual walk?
For me, it was really gradual. So people started wanting pieces of my art, and then they started paying me for them. Hey, go figure, that was like incredible. And then I really had to dollars and cents everything. This is a very practical answer of like, when is it time to make a living off of your art? It's whenever people will pay you for it and they're paying you enough that you can like survive and thrive. As far as the good enough though, it's so hard because we've been so like hardwired to think in these binaries of like good and bad, and it's like, where do I fall on the scale? But with artwork, there is no good and bad. There's no technical metric for what makes good and bad art. And really, like, this is not the question you asked, but the advice I would give you is to find your people, find the people who love the art that you make, because they're definitely out there and they certainly will think it's good enough.
I don't think that good enough is even a factor for me exactly. I'm going to make it because I'm going to do it. I'm not going to stop. I needed to go somewhere because my house is very small and I can't keep it all. And people have been giving me money for it. And that is like a little miracle. People like what you do when they fork over money. And it's a real boost. And when that starts happening repeatedly, it just fuels the fire. But I think we're all good enough to do it, no matter if people give you money or not. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I feel like good enough is like, there's so many like branches off of like feeling good enough as an artist, because there's that comparing to other artists and your friends who are artists, when like, again, like your collaborators, not competition. And then also like feeling good enough as an artist as like, that's my real job in a world that like wants you to like be an accountant. I don't know. And I think like, okay, what was the question? Like, don't worry about being self-taught or going to school or any of that. Like, if there's anything I've learned, it's like the magic is like just in you doing it. And I've met so many people who are self-taught that just like blow me away. In our state, it's amazing. So I would just say like, try to get past that good enough. And because you're never going to go anywhere if you don't just be like, I'm enough, and you reach for those opportunities, or for at least like putting your work out there. You'll never know unless you do it. So.
And I will also say, as someone who is a nerd and can also be very, I don't know, picky about what I like and what I don't like. And I've never done this with like anybody I know or anybody local or anything like that. But I have come across stuff online where it's like, oh, that's bad. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, they have how many followers? Oh, they make how much money? Oh, okay. Maybe I can eke out a meager living if this person is making this much money from this pile of, ugh. So yeah, that is a framing that has helped. I am very motivated by spite, obviously. So like, so that has also been a helpful framing for me personally.
There are always going to be people who like what you make.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what you do, there's going to be someone that likes it.
Mm-hmm. And you'll find like people who will stick with you forever. Like I have friends that still buy my artwork now that have bought it since I made like really crappy bowls on the potter's wheel. So
and even if your folks aren't around, they could be anywhere. Like we're online, and like if you have a niche, you can find people in that niche and they will love your stuff. Like the world's flattening, you know.
Well, yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Oh my gosh. It's been so lovely to hear from all of you. I have not had time to read all of the wonderful comments that are coming in the chat. You guys should definitely look back through it if you get a moment, but this discussion has been really helpful to the people on the call. And I do want to go ahead and allow Renee to wrap this panel up for us, and we'll take a 1 minute break and then, or a 2 minute break, and we'll be back right at 3:30.
Okay, great. Thank you for playing partner with me, Dominica, and reading the questions out that the group is presenting. As you can tell, these folks have really interesting stories. And one of the things we did this year with this class of fellows is historically we have asked 5 questions for the artists to answer. We put them in a newsletter and we sort of call it done. But this year we really wanted to dive into a deeper look at who these artists are, what has been an inspiration to them, where they find that inspiration and the successes. And we've been working with a fabulous writer, Candy Workman, who is here off screen, but I want to praise her. And I really feel like as we're talking about the hunger for Appalachian stories out there, I think that, again, using that word historically, that we've been looking for certain stories. They are either stories of less than, or I think stories of traditional, we talk about our rich culture often, but I feel like the story has been a little bit flat of what that rich culture actually means. And I think that in this newsletter, we've been able to dive in a little bit deeper and have a true contemporary view into what is happening in West Virginia art making today. And it's been such a pleasure to undergo that process with you all. And I really, I'm now going to plug our newsletter. I really hope that you will have been inspired by what we've heard today. Sandra had asked if we plan on this being an annual event, and the answer is yes. We will just continue to grow it stronger and bigger with your help, of course. And we just want to encourage you to continue interacting with the Tamarack Foundation for the Arts. We are here for you. And it's just been a pleasure. What a fabulous day. I feel super successful, and I hope you guys do as well. So we'll see you back in a bit. Thank you.
Here. As we've witnessed up close at this summit, however, what we have is actually an incredibly diverse, multi-dimensional, cutting-edge arts community that's enriching our state in a vast number of ways. I and the whole Tamarack Foundation team feel energized and excited and privileged to get to be a part of this movement. And I can't say how much I mean that. And we hope you feel the same. Like I said earlier, we're convinced there's no better time and no better place to be an artist, a creative entrepreneur, than right here and right now in West Virginia. And there are so many people at all different points in their careers who are eager and ready to go on this journey with you. Because we know that when we lift up the work of other West Virginia artists, we all benefit. If you haven't already signed up and created a profile with Creative Network, we strongly encourage you to do so. Not only will we love to have you, but it's one of the best means of tapping into the Mountain State's creative community and all the resources and opportunities that come with it. We'll share that link again in the chat. You can also keep up the momentum going from today by signing up for our one-on-one coaching sessions with our fantastic speakers. As Mitzi and Elaine and Jennifer have explained, they'll be available for appointments throughout the next week. And we will send some more information about how to schedule in the follow-up emails. We hope you'll take them up on that offer. Lastly, I'd like to provide a final reminder about the closing reception of the Emerging Artists Show, which is happening at 4:15 at the Charles W. and Norma C. Carroll Gallery at the Marshall University School of Art and Design. Anyone who's in the area is welcome to attend, and as you can see, the fellows are here. Just please note that masks are required. If you can't make it in person, which is probably most of you, the closing will be live streamed on Instagram by @Marshall Art and Design. We're grateful to Marshall for the support they've provided to our Emerging Artist Fellows and program and to our summit today. They continue to be an invaluable ally to the arts in West Virginia. Thank you also to the West Virginia Department of Arts, Culture, and History, who provided funding for this very important summit, and to our board members, who tireless champions of Mountain States artists as well, without whom events like the West Virginia Creative and Arts and Business Summit would not be possible. Thank you to our speakers for their fierce investment in West Virginia's creative economy, and thank all of you for showing up to make our state better and more beautiful day after day. We can't wait to see what we're able to create moving forward together. Take care.